Hello, it's Jeta, and today I thought I would share my reading goals for 2021. So I am in no way sharing these to pressure anyone or make you feel like you have to create ones as well. I am literally just creating these goals because I want to grow and develop as a reader, and I find it fun to set myself challenges, especially with reading. Also, from what happened this year, I think we all know that things can be so unpredictable. I didn't want to set really overly ambitious goals for all aspects of my life because I think we all know that often things don't really go to plan. So I decided to just set 5 goals which are all about books and reading. And I just think that it's something that I can control and that I can achieve. So my first and probably main goal, you could say, is to read 65 books in 2021. So this year I set myself the challenge of reading 50 books, and I'm pretty sure that I will achieve this because I've currently read 49 books and am more than halfway through book 50. And so this year I wanted to read 65, which is 15 more, but I do think it's achievable. I think it averages out to around a book every 5 to 6 days, which is like 5 to 6 books a month, which I think I can do. Yeah, so I want to do this because it's fun, but also because my kind of larger goal, I would say, is just to read more books. It is true, there are so many books and too little time, but I just think that by doing this, I'm reading a little bit more. Setting a numbered goal of how many books you're going to read that year doesn't really necessarily work for everyone, and if it doesn't work for you, then there are other ways that you can go about reading more books. But I did it this year and I thought it worked quite well for me, so I'm going to do it next year. Well, I am going to be posting this probably in January, so this year, 2021, let's just say that. What was I saying? Yes, so I will be tracking this on Goodreads, so you can have a look on there to see my progress and how I'm doing with the challenge if you want. I think it is linked on my YouTube channel, but I might link it down below in case you can't find it. But yes, I'm going to be tracking this on Goodreads. Oh, and good luck to anyone else who is reading a certain amount of books. It can be quite difficult sometimes, especially when you get really busy. And I am planning on doing 1 or 2 readathons this year, so hopefully that will help me to read 65 books. So my second goal is a little bit more general, and it's to read more poetry. So I really love poetry. I love reading poetry, I love writing poetry. And this year I don't think I did anything to do with poetry as much as I would have liked. I want to do goal 2, partly because I am going to be doing an English literature A-level next year. That's what I'm thinking one of my options is going to be, and I just think that if I do this I will have a better understanding of poetry and possibly find it easier when I do need to read loads of poetry for my course, but majoritively just because I do love poetry. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing to try to fulfill this goal is to set aside 20 minutes on Sunday to do something related to poetry. So whether that's writing poetry or reading poetry, I don't mind what it is, but just spending some time doing poetry things, just so I make sure that I do fulfill the goal.
Just quickly before we move on to the next goal, I wanted to say that I have created steps for each of these goals because I really do think that there's no point in setting a goal if you don't have a plan of action to achieve it. So I have set steps for each of these, but I don't want to bore you with the details, so I've just left them out.
So goal 3 is a little bit similar to the previous one, and it's just to read more non-fiction. I think there's a lot that you can learn with fiction, but maybe more concrete and transferable skills that you can learn with non-fiction books. And this year I think I've read 1 non-fiction book, which is probably more than I have in many years because I just don't read non-fiction. I've never really gravitated towards non-fiction, but I really want to try to read more. Obviously it's hard to say when you've achieved your goals, so I'm gonna say maybe 4 or 5, possibly 3 non-fiction books in the year, just because you gotta start small. And I'm really not used to reading very much non-fiction, so yeah. So goal number 4 is to reflect and annotate the books that I read more. Essentially, the point of the goal is just to be a more active reader. I feel like I read a book which I probably enjoy and then I just move on to the next book without really writing my thoughts about the book and kind of any quotes that I really liked from it or any bits of research that I want to do on the book. I just kind of move on, and I feel like that's quite passively reading a book, even if it's just fiction. So one of my goals is I really want to annotate, kind of using sticky notes or whatever, while I'm reading, and then afterwards make sure that I reflect on the book, and I really want to write down my thoughts. Essentially like a mini journal, you could say, of the book and what I thought about it. Goal number 5 is very specific, and it's the only extremely specific goal I have. So I want to read David Copperfield by Charles Dickens this year. So when I was younger, I read a lot of the abridged versions of Dickens' work, and my favourite of all of the ones that I read was David Copperfield. I love the story so much, and I really want to read the original text because I think that I will really enjoy it, but also it's a really thick book. It's like almost 1,000 pages, I think. And I kind of just want to read it to prove to myself that I won't be put off a book just because it's really thick, which I think sometimes you can be. Subconsciously, you will see a book, and if it's like really thick, you're just... It's difficult to start. Also, the language of the book is a little bit more challenging, so just generally, it's a challenge, but I really want to read it. I've already got the book on Kindle. It was actually just free because most classics are actually free on Kindle, which is really cool. I am going to be highlighting and taking notes as I go along to fulfill my 4th goal, and yeah, I'm kind of excited for this, but I think I am going to break it up into chunks. So instead of just sitting down and just reading that, which might take me say a month, I might like commit to it for a few days and then read something else, and then maybe just read 10 pages a day whilst reading something else as well. Or I know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I don't want to just sit down and read it like just on its own, because I think you can get a bit tired of a story if it keeps going on forever, and you might just not want to read it at all because there's so many books that you also want to read and it feels like it's taking up all your time. So yes, that is what I think I'm going to do. Those are my 5 book goals. Sorry, I don't know why the phone camera stopped working. A little bit later now, but I just realised that I didn't actually finish the video. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and that it gave you some inspiration to read more, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye!